I'm Rainey Knudson. I'm the founder and publisher of Glass Tire. And today I wanted to talk about this painting behind me. It's by Ron Hoover. Ron Hoover was a Houston painter, and this painting hangs in my office here at the Glass Tire headquarters. From time to time, we'll shoot our top 5 videos, and I'll sit here at my desk with the painting here behind me, and people have written in asking about this painting and who was the painter. This painting is called Modern Business Shadows. It's from 1983, which was the beginning of the sort of height of Ron Hoover's career, such as it was. By all accounts, Ron Hoover was an obsessive workaholic painter, and he was a recluse. He did not get out much. He struggled. He lived really in poverty, and he was just passionately dedicated to his painting, and that's what he wanted to spend his time doing, and so he did, to the detriment of probably his health, his environment, everything else that comes along with living a life. He was single-mindedly focused on making work and developing his craft. And you can see that level of technique, and you can see that level of dedication in his paintings, which are great. Ron Hoover was born in Liberty, Texas, and he came to Houston to get his BFA at the University of Houston, which he did in 1975. He was a part of the famous 1985 exhibition Fresh Paint at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, which was a survey of Houston painters. And he showed with Bill Graham, who was an extremely important dealer in Houston in the 80s, who had a very interesting stable of local artists. He died of AIDS in 1992, sadly, and it was a blow to a lot of Houston artists whom he represented, including Ron Hoover. Almost all of Ron's work explores a darker side to human society, oftentimes through the dark side of the business world, the dark side of free market capitalism. Environmental damage was a big concern of his. And much of it was an expression of a big, powerful, unknown force that's suddenly invading the ancient or older or pastoral peacefulness of the environment. If you think about it, in the 1970s, that's really what was happening in Houston, as suddenly out of the swamp, these crystalline man-made structures came up in downtown Houston out of nowhere as an expression of enormous wealth and power. His early works from the 1970s are great. They're oil paintings on translucent paper. They owe a big, clear debt to Francis Bacon, who he said was one of his big influences. By the time the 1980s came around, he evolved towards the style he's most well known for. Many people call it pointillism, and sometimes you do see the individual dots of a Seurat-like painting in his work, but oftentimes he was splattering the oil paint on the surface with a toothbrush, and that's the case in this work here. Densely layered, many, many layers create vague, shadowy effects with background images, crosses painted in multiple shades of gray and black, and then overlaying on top of that the spattering in a bright assortment of colors that, when you step back from them, of course, achieve this sort of muted, gloomy, gray-green. It's interesting that Ron Hoover made this painting in 1983 because the year before, the film Koyaanisqatsi, the famous Philip Glass film, came out, and you can see a kind of a parallel. It's life out of balance, it feels out of control, and these little figures that are scattered throughout this painting in some ways echo those Hopi figures, the rock paintings, that appear at the very end of the film Koyaanisqatsi. And this general sense of a loss of control, of helplessness in society. I've known this painting since I was an adolescent, and I've always felt that the shadowy figure behind the smiling, scary, suited man in the front had a certain ape-like quality, but that might just be my interpretation. My husband pointed out a parallel with the painter Chaim Soutine, the Russian expressionist painter from the 30s mostly. Both Hoover and Soutine achieved a signature style that was certainly informed by the people who came before them, but was completely distinctive unto itself and immediately identifiable if you know their work. Chaim Soutine was also a very difficult person who couldn't really manage his life, couldn't manage money. He was famously irascible, as was Ron Hoover. Both Soutine and Hoover struggled. They never achieved the fame of their contemporaries. And I think both of them in many ways are artists, where they are recognized amongst the people who make the stuff as the real deal. In his artist statement in the Fresh Paint catalog, Ron Hoover said, "I like dedication. It's too bad there is so little of it." My painting has evolved to increased confidence and belief in myself that I have something to give. All that it takes is very hard work. My current concern is to do the best painting that I can. Well, I'm glad to be able to talk about Ron Hoover a little bit. I'm glad people have called in and written in and asked about this painting. It's a wonderful painting, and I'm really lucky to be able to spend time with it every single day. Thanks for watching. Go see some art.